So everyone, hello, welcome. Today we are here with author Tiffanie Drayton, who is a writing colleague of mine, a friend. We've known each other for a minute, and she has agreed to grace us with her presence today on a piece that she wrote for the New York Times called I Am a Black American, I Had to Get Out. This piece led Tiffanie to a book deal. Woohoo! That the book is coming out February 7th?
8th.
February 8th, okay? So we want to definitely make sure that we support and check out that book. But in the meantime, we want to let Tiffanie talk to you guys a little bit about how exactly she became an author or writer. She's written for, I'll let her tell you, she's written for a lot of publications. She has a lot of insight. She's very, very personable. I love her. Everybody that I introduce to her falls in love with her as well, so I would expect the same. But we're gonna just go ahead and get started and then go into some questions, okay? So thank you, Tiffanie, so much for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. And I hope everyone is awake and didn't just turn on their computer and go back to sleep, because I know that students be trying it.
I hope not, I hope not. So like I mentioned, so I printed your piece here and I didn't steal any money from the New York Times. I am a subscriber, so I felt like it was okay to print it. But really I just want to get students started because most of the students that are taking this class are new media majors. So they're going to be like all over the industry, right? I mean, who knows where they'll end up, but I'm sure just with content being what it is now, with students needing to know or professionals needing to be able to, you know, write their own content and just be, there's just so much content out there, so we have to be able to manage all of that. You know, what do you think would be the best, you know, form of advice that you could tell community college students looking to get into the business? I mean, whether it's producing, directing, writing, you know, whatever, just media, because media covers so much, right?
Well, firstly, what I want to say is I was a community college student as well. So all is possible, and all dreams, whether you believe they're big or small, are completely feasible. And that's pretty much like the number one thing I always want people to know, like dream big and fight for it, because that's all you have. Now, when it comes to that fight means that you are positioning yourself in ways that are going to give you access. And of course, school is that starting point. And even community college, for me, that's where I really started honing in on my writing skills and making sure that I took communications classes so I can speak and feel confident in myself. So starting right there, that's like just a phenomenal place to start, absolutely. And then beyond that, once you develop these skills and once you feel comfortable, then you have to be putting yourself in the position where people are going to help you to get into the publications you want to get into and make sure that you're really just hitting all of your goals. And a big part of that for me was internships, and also just having amazing, phenomenal professors that supported me, some of whom have become my mentors to this day, like Susan Shapiro. And I would have never been able to have access to that had I not gone on to a four-year college. I went to the New School with Charisse. We know each other from writing class. Woo, woo, way. And that writing class was so tremendous for my development as a writer. And also it gave me access in a way that I would have never had I not gone on to a four-year college, and specifically a college that was catering to what I wanted to do, which is I wanted to be a writer. And this school was for artists. So if you want to be an artist, you go to a school that's going to, of course, afford you the opportunity to get into that industry, or classes that are tailored to that industry and that offer you that access. So I would say those are, I think you asked for one piece of advice, but I think I just gave like three.
That's awesome though. I mean, because I mean, you know, everyone, you know, some people go on to a four-year degree, you know, some students might take a different path, but I mean, obviously just being here is the first step, right? Because like you said, you started at community college, I started at community college. I really love the community college because it's just a blend of so much. You know, by the time you get to the 4 years, especially if you're fortunate to go to a school like the New School like we were, it's just a different level, right? But here, it's literally everyone and anyone, right? So I just think it's the perfect place to start.
I really wanted to say something about what you said about having different paths.
Yeah.
And it's true, the four-year college format is not the only path, because though I did move on to a four-year college, I would say that school was so phenomenal because those classes you could have taken as a non-credited student as well. And many of those classes that I took, like breaking into New York newspapers and magazines with Sue Shapiro, and classes on racial stratification, which is about racism and the US economy, those classes really dominated when it came to the importance of my education. And I could say I could have easily not taken any of the other classes and probably been equally as successful. So while a four-year college is great, hitting those workshops are great. Getting into classes that are going to give you the skill sets and the access that you need is also great. So the four-year school is not the end-all be-all to it. It's really just about positioning yourself in whatever way that's going to give you access.
Right. No, and I mean, and I'm glad you said that. I mean, obviously, you know, whoever, if you can go, if you can afford it, if it makes sense, do it. But we know that everybody is not going to do that. And luckily we have, especially now with Zoom, right? Obviously we're on Zoom. You know, you can take a class with just about anybody, damn near anywhere, right? And benefit from that expertise probably in a way that you might not have been able to before. The access is there. I think about now.
And people like myself and even Sue, we do classes, or even I give free classes all the time where I teach people how to write essays and where I teach people where to pitch, and I give people editor contacts. And for me, that's just like my give back. And not only that, but it's like building a little writing army, because the more diverse voices we have out there in the world, the more we can change the world and have a great impact. And for me, I feel like the next generation, y'all got to come in strong. Y'all got to come in swinging, because ultimately these times are quite trying, to say the very least. And we need new compelling voices always. So reach out to people like myself, find those classes, find those spaces. It's not just about four-year school, which is great. It's also about, once again, just getting in there and finding people like myself and even Charisse that can support you and help you out.
No, and definitely be giving them all your contact information, because I know that you offer those classes, and I just
all the time. And I say, don't be afraid to hit me up ever, because that's one of the best things I've ever been afforded, is the opportunity to have access to people within the industry that have said, hey girl, this is what you need, this is what you got to do. And once you have that work ethic and you're capable of doing the work, boom, magic.
Well, and the thing is, this is what I love about you, Tiffanie. And I mean, obviously I met you at the New School, but I mean, regardless of the success that you've had, and every time I refer to you, I always say soon to be New York Times bestselling author, because I see that, right? I see that for you. And I can't see it happening to a more, you know, deserving person. But real talk though, I mean, students that are up here, we're about maybe an hour from the city, roughly, right? There are students up here in this community, even to this day, that it surprises me, that have never been to the city, right? They just don't have that access. Now, to me, that sounds crazy, because it's like literally a train ride, right? But you don't know where people are, you don't know what their situation is, what their struggle is. So just to be able to have that access to someone, you know, with your background, right? You know, through this course or whatever, I just think it's a valuable, you know, it's something that I want to continue to do as a professor and as a writer, because I would have loved to have this kind of access, you know what I mean, when I was in community college, or that I didn't necessarily have to go to the city to have this kind of access. So that's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring you in and let the students see, you know, that this is possible. Like we just said, there's different pathways, right? Because, you know, same for me, I wouldn't have had those experiences and that access had I not went to the New School, right? It was just like where we were supposed to be, right? That was our path. But now that we've done that, we can kind of branch it out, you know, to others. And
it's like that digital space has become like this whole new world of phenomenal opportunity. And even as I was going to college, I would take classes on Coursera, which offers, you know, free online classes, or anywhere really. And just, like I said, really care about your learning, care about your education, because without that investment in those things, it's like you'll fall flat on your face. Right. Fundamentally, that's where it all starts. You care about your education, you're invested in your education, you're investing in that writing, and you're writing with care and with thought, and to provide insight, of course. But the only way you're going to gain insight is by educating yourself and getting out there and experiencing things.
Right. And both Tiffanie and I mean, Tiffanie, you know, she's much smarter than me, but she writes about, this is what we were taught, you know, write about what we know, right? I mean, and the more you know, obviously the more you can write about, right? Now me, I kind of like to stay in my little lane, you know, I might branch out a little bit, but I mean, even sometimes when we've had you in the summer academy, you know, just your knowledge and just some of your experiences. And I remember, what was it, a couple of years ago, before you had kids, I don't remember, you just traveling, you're this place, you're that place, you know, and all those things inform your writing, right? You just had this amazing, you know, I mean, you're still so young, but your life is just kind of fascinating. I can't wait to read your memoir, like, later, after you write about all of this stuff. But I mean, for the purposes of this class, I mean, I'm just trying to think of, like, what would be the best, you know, because this class and because this major is not just like writing, right? I can talk about writing essay pieces and like you said, and getting into different publications, but I mean, even some of the behind the scenes or TV writing or, you know, journalistic kind of writing. I mean, do you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to talk on some of that? Any experience?
Well, the interesting part about the writing industry is how small it is. It's really super small. And not only that, but it's really centralized and really put into, you have an East Coast, West Coast thing. So on the West Coast, you have all these screenwriters and you have all these people who write for Hollywood and Netflix. Then on the East Coast, you have journalism, a lot of journalism, and then a lot of essayists, a lot of, and then the big publishers like Penguin that published my book. So of course, this kind of East Coast, West Coast rivalry in the writing world is what drives access. So once again, you know, like you said, going to the New School gave us access to writing and publishing books, because guess what? That's what industry is in New York City. Now, if I wanted to be a screenwriter, Cali is where it's at. So even if you just say, you know what, I'm gonna go find a class at a university in Cali that maybe I can even take for free, and you just, you speak to your professors and you woo the heck out of your professors, you attend events. I attended so many events, and interestingly, there was an event I attended some years ago, and a guy named Ben Jealous was there. He was the former NAACP president at the time, and he was giving a lecture on economics. And I harassed him with a bunch of questions. And afterwards, he called me out from the crowd, and he gave me his number. He was like, listen, anything you need. And in all honesty, that was really crucial for me in my career, because he knows everybody. And it just goes to show, once you put yourself in the space and you engage with your space and you're active and you're learning and you're always there ready and you show up, then of course you're going to get more rewards. So if you want to be a screenwriter, you show up to the space. If you can't show up physically, guess what? Boom, there's that digital world. And you don't show up and act meek and all like, oh, I didn't know what to say. No, you got to bust in the door. You got to say, hey, even if you don't know. I'm so huge on saying, listen, I do not know, please tell me. I will beg. Excuse me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And quite frankly, that is how I've gained access to learning about writing book proposals. It was by begging. And to pretty much everything that I now do, it's through either attending events, hitting up people that I have no business trying to talk to, who have somehow helped me, and really just kicking down the door, you know, like, or at least putting my foot in the doorway as it's closing, like, hey, one more.
No, but I mean, I'm glad you said that, because that's a lot of what we do here, even on this campus, is just, you know, teach students how to be advocates, how to advocate for themselves. And that's the one thing I learned too in the writing business. Like you said, you have to put yourself out there. And it's almost like, hey, I want to do this, help me. If you can't help me, show me somebody that can, or guide me to, you know, whatever. But you cannot just sit back and wait for somebody to come give you anything, because that's not going to happen. So like you said, you just have to be there and be, you know, whatever, beg, borrow, steal, whatever, you know, whatever you do, short of anything illegal, right?
Advocate. That word is such a crucial and essential word. Yeah. Like being your own advocate is, especially for young people who come from backgrounds that are not rich, young kids of color. Like, this world demands that you fight for the space that you're going to occupy, and that you are your largest self as you occupy that space. Because if you don't do that, no one is going to create space for you. And fortunately, we are in a moment where so many people have kicked down so many doors and broken through so many glass ceilings and really have demanded space, but the fight never ends. That's all I can say. So yeah, this year has been a fantastic year for and last year, ever since the George Floyd protests, for example, there have been a lot of diversity initiatives that have allowed more space for writers of color. In fact, I think a girl that took one of our classes, Jessica Hope, do you know her?
I don't
She
think
just
so.
sold a book for like over $500,000. She's a Latina woman, and we have been in this struggle together for like 10 years trying to sell our books. I sold my book first, and then boom, she sold her book just the other day.
Nice.
Why? Because she's fighting for that space. And you were saying that your students are fully immersive media students. Like, she created space for herself where? On Instagram. And she built a following on Instagram. And in doing so, that has given her a platform to demand even more money from publishers.
Right.
So creating space is not just attending events and going to classes and all of those things, yeah, for sure, but it's also how you're utilizing your social media. Like, is your social media where you post your cat and, you know, your food of the day, or are you actually trying to use your social media for that? Sure, but also for other things, to promote what you love, to stand for something, to be passionate about a subject, to draw eyes, to create a following. Because quite frankly, that is one of the great benefits that young people have. Like, you could be sitting in your house and you can have followers from halfway around the world. And in doing so, boom, you can go sell a book for $500,000 because the publisher knows, well, you have a big following, so of course you're going to be able to sell books.
They're going to buy your book and buy your books. No, and I mean, and I'm glad you hit on that too, because that's something me personally I've fallen back on, but that's only for lack of time. You know, since I started teaching, I don't have that same time, but I do know and recognize how important it is. And I know most of the students in this college, and mostly I guess on any campus, you know, they're on Instagram, they're on Snapchat, they're on TikTok, they're, you know, where I don't think Facebook so much is where it's at anymore. This is what I've been told, but still, you know, that they have whatever social media platform that they're most familiar with. And so, and speaking of that too, so the students in this class will have read your piece, right? And like I said, I gave that as my final. We could talk about that later. But I'm wanting to know, so since you sold this piece, or really kind of take us through a little bit how this piece came about, and you know, like you said, the George Floyd, you know, murder just stirred up so much in all of us, right? And I mean, if you didn't have a voice before that, it almost like it gave you one, because it's like, how can you not feel and want to say whatever it is that you want to say, right, in this moment. So tell us kind of how this particular piece came about. I'm a Black American, I had to get out. How did that come about?
Sadly, that wasn't the first rodeo, because I had written a similar piece in 2013 for Salon.com called Goodbye to My American Dream. That was after the killing of Trayvon Martin and the subsequent, when George Zimmerman got off for that. And it was just this excruciatingly painful moment. You know, I remember it so vividly. At the time, I had moved back to Trinidad and Tobago, which is the country that I was born in, but I had been raised in America since I was 4 years old. So at 23, I moved back to Trinidad and Tobago, and I was just so tired of racism. I was just so tired of being a minority. I just wanted to feel at home and at peace. And just as I moved back, I would say a couple months later, boom, you have all over the media the situation with Trayvon Martin. And I was out enjoying my night with my sister, and I saw the news, and you know, we were out dancing, enjoying ourselves, and I was like, no, I gotta go home. And I just went home and I just typed that essay immediately. It was just the only thing I could have done. I couldn't have done anything else, because I was so pissed off. I was so angry. I was so heartbroken. I just had enough. Right. And so that was that moment for me, I would say, as a woman of color, as a writer. That was that moment, that turning point in my life where I recognized, listen, silence is just not an option. Like, it's just not an option, because my own emotions wouldn't allow for it. And so when the same situation happened with George Floyd, where you had this huge media focus on this very horrendous moment, this murder of a man by the police, and they under a knee. Oh God, it was just dreadful. And because I knew how important that piece was, the Goodbye to My American Dream piece, at that time, I knew this piece would also be important at that moment, because it's a reckoning when a country is forced to face something that it wanted to turn its back on. You know, for so long, because we elected a Black president, there was no more racism, you know. That was the Obama era. It was like, what do you mean racism? There's no such thing as racism, right? But it's like, as soon as these pivotal moments forced America to say, no, look, listen, we have to reconsider this position. And that's what that piece was, that's how that piece came about. But by that time, it had already been almost a decade of writing about social justice issues, writing about inequality, writing about women's rights, writing about it, for any publication that would take it. Because once the situation happened with Trayvon Martin, I was so pissed off, I could not shut up. Honestly, I was just ranting every day, all the time. And let's just say it has not stopped since. So.
No, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I definitely feel that. I think similar to you, one of the pieces that I wrote some time ago was as a mom, especially, right? I have 3 sons, and when Trayvon Martin was killed, it was just like, you know, that could have been any one of my sons, right? For any reason, similar or not, like, you know what I mean? Like you said, I just don't know how you could not write or not feel or not be led to do something, right? So unfortunately, then, you know, the George Floyd murder, I still struggle with it. Like, I still struggle with the words. I still struggle with, I can't watch the video. You know what I mean? It's just, it's still hard. And even when I assigned your essay, and thankfully, not thankfully, but thankfully, you know, it's not something that none of the students were not aware of, right? Because I mean, the entire world knows about this incident. Everyone knows his name. And then I love how in your piece, you know, you kind of go back through, kind of like what you just said, you know, you revisit all of these names that have become hashtags, right? And obviously they're more than hashtags, but I mean, it was just like, my gosh, even if you wanted to forget, you couldn't, because in your piece, you're kind of revisiting, you know, Sandra Bland, and, you know, you're mentioning all the names. I mean, so since then, I mean, what was your response from the piece? And, you know, how did the book deal come about as a result of this?
Right. So when I was looking for a place to, for placement for the piece, I actually, I'm a part of a women's writing group on Facebook.
Okay.
And I posted that I was interested in writing this story, and that the moment kind of called for it, because I had done a similar story in 2013. It was very, very popular. So I was like, this story deserves good placement. Help me place it. And by that time, it had already gotten rejected from so many publications that I had previously published work with, that I was actually, that was like my last resort. Like, can somebody please help me place this? Like, I don't know what to do with this, because I know it's a great story. I don't understand why these publishers don't, I mean, why these editors don't want it. I'm so confused. And I just closed my computer. And when I opened back up my computer, there's just like hundreds of comments on the piece. And there was an editor from the New York Times, and she was like, listen, get the story to me, blah, 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 let me consider it. And I was like, of course. And I immediately sent her a draft, and we went back and forth a little bit. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to talk to my colleagues. I can't make you any promises, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she suggested some edits. And, you know, I really had very low expectations, if I'm to be quite honest, by this point, just because of all of the rejection. And then she got back to me. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's going to be like the cover story of the opinion section. And I was like, oh wait, what?
Am I dreaming?
You know, it's so funny because I barely had the moment to process that in a way where I was excited about it. Because for me, as soon as she said that, I was like, listen, I'm going to get a proposal out there. I'm going to get a book proposal out there, and I'm going to sell my book right now. And I got an agent via my mentor, Susan Shapiro. She introduced me to this amazing agent. And I was like, listen, I'm going to have a book proposal to you in a couple days. And she was like, what do you mean a couple days? I was like, a couple days, because you got to hit it while it's hot, you know?
I mean, but you know that.
You know that.
Exactly, but she didn't believe me, but I got it to her immediately, and we went out with it, and within a week or two of publishing that New York Times piece, I had sold a book.
Wow. I mean, and well, our students, my students won't know this. I'm sure they'll hear me mention it though about Sue Shapiro, but I mean, it's just, what you're describing is like what we sit in her class and listen to and hope and pray for, right? Because it's like, it's just not, for me, it's like, it's not happening, and then you hear like, no, it does happen, it can happen.
It can happen. It's, you have to, you know, really commit yourself and really work hard, because the truth is, it is a matter of the stars aligning. I will admit that. It doesn't happen overnight. This is, I would say, probably the culmination of almost a little under 10 years worth of work. So for me, it wasn't like an overnight success or anything like that. But at the same time, you have to be there when your moment comes. And the only way you can be there is, once again, you've been showing up this whole time. You've been putting in the work. You've been committed. You've been passionate. You've been using your voice. You've been advocating for yourself.
Exactly. Okay, well, I want to get to some of these questions because I just think they're really good questions.
I mean, I really want
to read all of them, but I'm not. Let's see.
Okay, so
this question, I kind of like this question because we're both moms. How would you feel if your children decided they wanted to move back to America and experience what it is like to be a Black American?
Oh, I would absolutely endorse it, and I require it, I would say, of my children. Experience is crucial. It's necessary. And there is no reason to shy away, or it's impossible to run away from racism, for example. Racism is a global problem. No matter where you go, you're going to encounter racism. You're going to encounter some type of ism. You're going to encounter people discriminating against you. And the truth is, as with everything else in life, you have to be able to not only cope and withstand, but fight. And the only way my kids would fight or will understand the fight is to understand what they are fighting. So ultimately, I want my children to be exposed to America and to live in America and to understand what it is to be a Black American, to understand what it is to live under the weight of that white supremacy that I wrote about and systemic racism. So yes, absolutely, I endorse it.
Okay, all right. Let's see here. Okay, oh, I like this one too. Okay, it says, you said that you hope one day that others will be able to find freedom too. Do you actually feel free? Let's see, do you actually feel free while you, I don't know, well, I'm just gonna read what it says. Do you actually feel free while you know other Black Americans are suffering?
Oh, that is actually quite, ooh, what a very poignant question. And quite frankly, it's something that I've been talking about more recently now that I'm finished with the book. It's actually something that I just spoke about in an interview. The truth is, it is impossible to truly be free once the perpetuation of racism continues. It's impossible. And that, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with, I'm in Trinidad, I'm having the best time of my life. I'm out with my sister and I just stumble upon news about Trayvon Martin, and all of a sudden, it's like everything around me that I was enjoying, I can no longer enjoy. I have to go home and I have to do the work. So for me, until the eradication of systemic racism is a reality, no, I will never be entirely free. However, in leaving America and affording myself the freedom to not live under the weighted reality of whiteness, I have given myself so much more. I feel invigorated. I feel ready. I'm like, you want to fight? Let's fight, you know? And I could have never felt that way had I not made that decision at that moment to leave. Okay. So, yeah.
Now, because one of the things I just thought was interesting, because like I said, I think, you know, for the last class, I think I might have first assigned your essay, and I didn't let the students know, like, initially I just assigned it, and it's like, okay, read this. And then it's like, okay, let's talk about it. And then, you know, I gave them some words to define, right? Because I'm still an English professor. So like, what is this? Do you know this word? Let's look up what this word means. Let's use it properly in a sentence. And you had some beautiful words in the essay for that. so it became almost like a 3 or 4 week assignment while we're just reading your piece and rereading your piece and doing all of this work with your piece. One of the things that I thought was really interesting, one of the students brought up, and that's not necessarily here, but what about those of us, and I'm just going to say us, this is what the student said, that can't leave, right? A few of them thought, well, that's wonderful for Tiffanie, and I'm paraphrasing, but I couldn't leave. I don't have anywhere else to go. This is home for me. What would you say to someone that feels that way, that there's almost a privilege, right, that you have to be able to leave and write kind of from afar?
It is 2000 and more percent a privilege, a matter of privilege. And that's something that I acknowledged even in the piece. The reason why I tell my story is because it forces people to confront the reality of racism. So ultimately, just in the telling, there is impact, and impact that will create change. But that is not to say that I don't understand that that's not a possibility or a reality for everyone. So to a large extent, I feel this kind of weighted responsibility to be an advocate, because leaving is not enough. It would never be enough. And I would never use my platform to compel people to merely leave. Absolutely not. What I will use my platform to do is to compel people to stare in the face at what is the reality of systemic racism, and also to fight and do something about it. And that's why I'm so fortunate now to have this book, because this book is an expansion of what that piece would have been, which is just maybe 1,200 words of how I feel or what I think. But ultimately, the book offers a path forward towards reconciliatory justice, which I think is the ultimate end. It's not just a matter of leaving. So for those who cannot leave, the truth is, I stand in solidarity with all Black people of the Western Hemisphere, with all people who have experienced oppression, not just Black people. This is our fight as a collective. It doesn't matter where you are. We have to stand in solidarity. And that's precisely what I plan to do.
Okay. All right. That sounded like we were like on a Today Show type of answer. No, I love it. So I have a question then. So I mean, so the book comes out. My guess, just from having seen these things happen with other authors, you know, you go on tour, possibly, potentially, I don't know, with COVID, you know, what that might look like. There's a series of interviews and whatnot. And one of the questions I always love from TV people, you know, whatever you want to call them, well, what's the next book? When's the next book? What, you know, everything, it's almost like when you have one baby, they're always asking, when's the
They're
next?
always expecting the next.
Boy, can this baby start walking and get out of diapers?
I know. And it's funny because that's exactly what it's like. And I think the funny thing about success is that it never actually ends, you know, not until you die. So it's like a never ending, like hamster wheel, you know? And just the other day, my agent messaged me and she was like, if you want to sell another book, you should do it now before the first book comes out, because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, I'm just in the middle of dealing with PR. I'm just in the middle of scheduling a bunch of interviews. I just finished editing the book. It's like, can I finish one thing? But to answer the, what about the next book? I would say this book sets the stage for me to continue in the work that is important to me, which I just addressed.
Right.
Which is ending systemic racism, which is ending oppression. So for me, best believe that all of my writing will always be to that end, right? As of late, I've been interested in this concept of catabasis, which I just found out about, which is a journey into the underworld. So it's a journey into the underworld, like the Odyssey, for example.
Okay.
So the Odyssey is a big tale of journey, right? But catabasis specifically is the part where you journey into the underworld to retrieve something, to retrieve a loved one or a very precious thing. And right now I'm actually back in America, because I'm embroiled in this whole custody battle over my kids. So America has forced me to return to deal with that. And as a result, it's made me think about a next book being about my experience in being here at this moment in this era. So it will just be pretty much a continuation with the theme of Catabasis journeying into the underworld to retrieve, something you love, something that's dear to you.
Okay, cool. So you're actually in the States right now.
Yep, I just got to Jersey today. I'm going to New York in a few. I was in Florida for a few weeks with my best friend. So
You should have told me that. No, but you know what?
I was about to trust. We gonna hang out.
Will know by the time they see this is that I've really been working hard to bring you to the overall campus. I just want, everyone to be able to experience you and your words and your work. So hopefully that comes to fruition, who knows? But, I've been saying, well, I don't think Tiffany's going to hop on a plane and come to New York to come here. We can get her on Zoom, but I mean.
Well, here I am.
You're here now.
Lo and behold.
No, that's awesome though. Okay, so I mean, I just think that, like you said, until there is no more racism, I mean, we'll always be writing, right? We'll always be fighting. We'll always have something to say. So yes, I expect to see so much more work from you. I wonder, I thought, can I see this being made into a movie? You know what I mean? You just kind of put these things in your head,
Well, what I really love about the book is that experientially, it's not just a snippet of a little experience with racism or with an opinion on racism. It's really my opportunity to be a full human being. Because though it's true, I'm Black and I'm a woman and I would have had these experiences, guess what? I've had 1,000,001 other experiences. Like you said, I've traveled all over the world. I've had so many beautiful encounters with life, and having the opportunity finally to show people me as like a whole person, not just a little fragment or a soundbite. It's like one of the biggest privileges ever. I'm just so friggin' grateful for it. Like, it's just the best.
I think to me, you heard the, what is, not a hashtag, something on Facebook, like Black Girls Travel or something. Have you seen that? Like, to me, when I think of that, I think of you, right? Because I think you were the first Black woman that I knew, young woman that I knew, that was just out there, like living life, right? And here I am like, oh gosh, I'm stuck here at West Point, with these kids or whatever, I'll live through Tiffany. But I mean, I can only imagine some of the experiences that you've had, and just, everything that we write doesn't have to be necessarily about the struggle, right? Because
it doesn't.
Joy.
Yes, absolutely. But it's through the lens of. So yes, it's true. I would have traveled to a place like Hawaii, and I've traveled to Vietnam, and I've traveled to all of these places. And it's through the lens of a Black woman. And I will have my own encounters. I will get to experience the beauty of nature. And perhaps I'll get a backhanded, terrible compliment from some racist man who believes I'm cute in those places or something of this sort. But it's like, it's not just my Blackness. Like, I am a full human. Like, it's my full humanity for a change. And yeah.
Okay. Well,
joy too. Ooh, there's some carnival scenes in there. I'm partying it up. I'm living my best life.
They haven't heard that from you. When you met with the other students, you were talking about shaking your butt and everything.
What? Of course, because I don't play that. My booty gotta shake. Carnival has been canceled 2 years in a row. So I am currently I'm fighting with my own self to not be depressed, because my butt helps my brain to function. When it shakes, it's like my dopamine levels increase and serotonin goes up, and I just feel better about life. But when it's not shaking, everything is depleted and I feel less happy. And so I've been trying to cope with the unshaking of my backside. And yeah.
Well, I mean, you would need to do something now, girl, because it's cold. Well, I don't know right now, right? No, well, this right now today, when the students see this, we'll probably be in the dead of winter. So
no, I'm so sorry for us collectively, because I too will be here in the struggle, freezing, not shaking my butt. Carnival is canceled. So there's that.
Today, I mean, we're just a little bit fortunate, but I mean, they don't know what day it is, but it's actually a little bit warmer here today in New York. But yeah, we're who knows what's coming. But okay, well, you know what? I mean, it's funny because I had the questions here, but I kind of figured, because I've spoken with you several times, once we started talking, that a lot of these would just be addressed throughout the conversation. So I didn't have to like read just those few that I really wanted to address specifically. But I mean, I just cannot stress enough, um, again, for the purposes of this class and for students that want to break into the business, into media, period, um, how valuable your words, and your experiences and your generosity even, and your willingness to give back, is for me as a fellow writer and also now a professor. It just makes my heart smile. It really does. And so I really hope that the students that are in this class and that will see this video, that, I mean, you definitely, all of that oozes out, even through Zoom, right? Because that was the other thing, like, how is this going to present? But I don't think that, we couldn't be more like just, oh, Tiffany, if you were here, right, and able to touch you and hug you. So I really do appreciate this time. I know this is really busy for you. You guys, Tiffany, she said, if we're going to do this, we need to get this done, right? Because she's about to just be like, whoosh, you know what I mean? But every time Tiffany says she's going to do something, she does. So I appreciate that. And I mean, but I really am thankful. I really am thankful that you shared yourself with us today.
It's my absolute pleasure, and I'm so grateful to be able to impart any little piece of wisdom and blessings and peace and insight, for the next generation. And I would say the last thing I really want to say is just like, find your joy. What you just said about, Black girl joy, like, find your joy, find your happiness, because ultimately, yeah, you have to advocate. Yeah, you have to fight. Yeah, it's a struggle out there. But if you don't have that piece of joy, like, that's what keeps that flame burning. That's what makes it worth fighting for.
Right.
So get out there, enjoy yourself, especially while you're young. Don't be having a bunch of kids and nothing like that. Have fun first and find your joy, find your peace.
I love when you say while you're young, because you act like you're like 70 years old. Like, stop.
I might as well as be. My back hurt every morning, Shit, my hip give out sometimes. I'm like, ah.
Don't listen to her. When you see her, how you say carnival? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, carnival.
Her in that get up, you'll say, that girl ain't old. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
I work hard for that. It don't look like that all year.
You're so crazy. Tiffany, thank you so much. I definitely will hope that, I know we're going to be able to have you back again in some other capacity. Like I said, I really do. I hope that it can be to the overall college. I'm working on it. We're actually going to be on break for a couple of weeks, and then we come back, try to see what we can do. And I know that's a busy time for you, so who knows? But I mean, if it works out,
it'll work out. And I'm here until the end of March, apparently.
Oh, wow.
That's when the situation with the court is going to be done. So I'm stuck here until then.
Okay.
So yeah.
With the book coming out, right, that you're going to be here. So for press and whatnot, right, you're already here.
Yeah, and I was very bummed out about it because, I like my mountains and my sunshine and my birds, right. But at the same time, I was also like really happy about that little kick in the butt from the universe, because boy, is it going to be an immense privilege to walk into a store and see my book on a shelf.
No, you're right. Let me tell you, I haven't had that pleasure yet, but when I was in the Not That Bad anthology, I think I went in Barnes and Nobles one time, and it was, it was up front, and I was just like,
I think I will just have a major breakdown. So I'm grateful to be here
with you, to take your picture, the video. I mean, it really is even still.
Oh, I'm gonna invite you to the book party.
Oh, you better, because
Susan Shapiro's having it.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not surprised. When is it coming soon?
Well, she was saying the 5th, but my publisher just got back and told her that they can't put the books on sale until after the 8th. So It might be the weekend after the 8th. So I'm gonna confirm with her. As soon as I know, you will know.
Yeah.
Hey, because it's a party, and we gotta make sure it's not too stuck up,
But Sue's been telling me literally since I met her, Sharice, okay, so we're gonna have your book, your book party, and we're gonna she sees it, right? She sees it in you, and she's telling you up front, this is gonna be your reality. And I'm just like, maybe not, but yes, that's awesome. I will be there. I will definitely be there to celebrate you. I'm so glad that you're local, for a little while.
Yep, yep. Use me and abuse me as you may.
But I definitely am gonna, I'll let you go because I know that you are having plenty
Oh,
of,
yep, 12:19. I gotta get dressed. I got an event to go to.
I know you're busy, but again, I just have to say thank you so much, Tiffanie.
My pleasure. Anytime. I'm always down to talk to your students, even if it's anything. Just let me know. I'll find the time.
I definitely will. All right, you enjoy your day.
You
Stay-
too. See you soon.
I'll definitely be in touch, okay?
Okay, later.
All right, bye-bye.